Hopefully I'm in focus. I'm back to using a manual focus lens. Takes me back to the days of the Panasonic G7. That was a great camera in hindsight, but damn, manual focus is not the way to go. Anyways, for a talking head, I guess it doesn't matter that much. With all that being said, before we get into this video, I just want to send my thoughts and prayers out to the people of Lebanon and places in Africa that are, receiving a lot of persecution. As well as I want to, just send my prayers out to the world. There's a lot going on right now, and we need to really be mindful. Please respect the laws in your areas. If you have to quarantine, if you have to wear masks, everyone just, abide by the laws out there so that we can all get rid of this whole issue real soon. With that being said, where I live here in Canada, in my specific area, the laws have been, laxed a little bit so that it gives us a little bit of freedom because our numbers have gone down significantly. We've almost eradicated it. So everything you see in this shoot, all laws were, followed, and I encourage you to do the same in your area. In my last video, I shot with the A7 III and the Nikon D800 that I rented. I rented it, for those who didn't watch that video, because I wanted to find a secondary body. I had the A6300, it was getting a little long in the tooth and my needs kind of changed. I wanted something for my personal work that shot full frame. I don't know, I just like the look of full frame. So I decided to go that route to rent the D800 to see if I can use a flagship from the past and see what it would be like in, 2019, 2020. That video was shot in 2019, by the way. Anyways, with that being said, the experience was, I would say the picture quality coming out of Nikon, fantastic. I've always liked Nikon. Very good for picture quality. However, the experience of shooting a DSLR again, once you've shot mirrorless for quite some time, it was different. Let's just say it's slow as hell, and I didn't want to go through dealing with DSLRs, dealing with having to micro adjust your lenses and all that. So, you know what? I'm sorry, but DSLR is not the way to go anymore, in my personal humble opinion. Take of that what you will. Anyways, with that being said, I was on a quest, and I promised at the end of that video that I would tell you what camera I decided to pick, because in the end I did decide to go with a camera, and that camera is this. Bam! The EOS RP from Canon. For those of you who know, I shoot primarily on Sony, the Sony a7 III, which is this bad boy here. It's a great camera. I've loved it, every second of it. I have zero complaints about it. The picture quality is amazing. It's almost like way too good. I spend a lot of time having to dial back the sharpness and dial back a lot of things because it's so good, almost too perfect. However, it's a great camera. I like it. I wanted something similar to it, but not exactly that. So what did I do? I got the Canon EOS RP because I'm primarily a photographer. Video comes, distant second. I only do video for these YouTube videos, so I did not necessarily need something that has the greatest video specs. With all that being said, my needs kind of changed, and here we are today with the topic of this video. I shot the Canon EOS RP for a good year, and it was very good for photos, but I noticed I was lacking a little bit of dynamic range in photos, especially when I was trying to edit, especially studio work, to bring out the shadows. And if you don't know, the Canon EOS RP does not have the best dynamic range. If you want to shoot with it, you have to be really good with your technique and get everything as close as you can in camera, because outside of the camera, when you're editing the post work, colors are great, but dynamic range is not good at all. So after a while, I started to think, do I really need full frame? And that led me to where we are today. Anyways, after shooting the Canon EOS RP for about a year, I was thinking to myself, what else is out there? Luckily, Fuji decided to release the X-T4 out of the blue. And what happened? The X-T3 dropped in price. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to pick up the X-T3. It's comparable in price between, the Canon EOS RP and the X-T3, around the same price, $1,200, $1,300 here in Canada. So I said, let's pick one up and do a comparison and see which one I'm going to pick in the end. And oh my gosh, this is probably one of the hardest comparisons I've ever made photography-wise. Video, I'm just going to spoil it right now, the X-T3 better in all the ways. Anyways, let's go over the specs very briefly. So starting off with the Canon EOS RP, The Canon EOS RP has got a 26.2 full frame CMOS sensor. It's got a Digic 8 image processor. It shoots 4K and 1080p video. The 4K has an asterisk, which I'll get to in a second. It's got dual pixel autofocus, which only is in 1080p. In 4K, you don't get that dual pixel autofocus, which is kind of a deal breaker. It's got an ISO range from 100 to 40,000, and it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. Now, moving over to the XT3, very similar to the RP, the XT3's got also a 26.1 megapixel APS-C sensor, and it's the X-Trans 4 sensor. It's got the X Processor 4 with a quad CPU. It shoots 4K up to 60 frames per second, shoots F-Log, and it shoots 10-bit color. Like I was saying previously, video-wise, this camera destroys the RP in all types of ways. It's got an ISO range of 80 to 51,200. It can shoot 30 frames per second photo with a 1.25x crop in its sports mode, which is insane. It's got Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and it is weather sealed. So right off the bat, it's kind of a weird comparison because the general thought, without getting too scientific, is that the RP with a full frame sensor should be better than the Fujifilm X-T3 with an APS-C sensor. But in reality, when we're talking about dynamic range, I'm just going to put it out there. The X-T3's dynamic range is crazy. The highlight recovery is crazy. I will never shoot another video with any older Sony body because the X-T3's video highlight recovery is chef's kiss. Anyways, with all that being said, let's go into this video and compare the two cameras. I did a shoot with my friend Crystal. We did some studio shoots. We did some outdoor shoot. And I'm going to say, like, this was a very, very hard one photo-wise. Watch the video, enjoy it, and at the end, I will tell you my thoughts. And let's see, which camera do you think I kept? I'll see you then. Listen, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Canon colors are great. I've never shot Canon before. I thought the whole color science thing was hype. No, it isn't. The Canon colors are really, really good. You know what it is? What the thing is that when you take the Canon RAW file and you start to edit it, there's very little work you've got to do to get it to where you want to be color-wise. And I found out that my experience in editing Canon files were super fast, which is honestly the greatest thing, especially when you're editing a lot of photos at a time. With Fuji and Sony, the files are so rich in information, you can essentially edit it to look whatever you want it to be. But when you take the raw files from a Fuji or a Sony camera, to get it to where you want to be takes a little bit more work. There's more massaging that has to be done with the file to get it closer to where it needs to be, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes I like to take my time, I like to edit, and I like that flexibility. So at the end of the day, I like the flexibility of the Fuji and the Sony files in terms of what it can give me. I can get all different types of looks. With Canon, I don't have that flexibility. However, when I do edit, in terms of my vision, Canon gets me where I want to be really quickly. So, photo-based, I will say, you know what, it's a tie, because Fuji has the flexibility, the incredible dynamic range. It is great. I can make a Fuji look like a Canon pretty easily. However, it does take a little bit of work. With the Canon, the full frame sensor gives you that full frame look. I don't know how to explain it. It's there. It's great. If you get the settings right and you get everything right in camera, the Canon is going to give you pleasing results. So at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but I'm completely undecided. I own both of these cameras. I paid full price for them, and I'm thinking, I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to be that guy. You know what? I'm going to pick. If I had no other option and I needed to stick with one camera system, I would pick the Fuji. And here's why. Video specs, out of this world. Once you start shooting 10-bit, you know what? I can't go back to 8-bit. Its highlight recovery is great, dynamic range is great, and technically it's more affordable because, yeah, the Canon RP is affordable, but those RF lenses, like, that is not even a question for me. Unfortunately, I'm not super rich, and you do have to consider the fact that, you know what, with RF lenses, they're super, super expensive. Canon has yet to make some really affordable RF lenses. So, you know, when you're comparing the entire system as a whole, Fuji is more affordable than Canon, and they have really, really great glass. So at the end of the day, if I had to stick with one system, because I can get my Fuji files to look like the Canon, you know what, at the end of the day, APS-C versus full frame, if you get the right lenses, you can eliminate that depth of field thing that everyone talks about. And so I would go with the Fuji. But if I didn't have to pick, you know what, I actually would keep the Canon because, as you know, unflexible as the sensor is, it did really, really great. And for those of you who like the Canon system, who are looking to get into, you know, a full frame camera on the low for cheap, something that came out just recently and has all the technology of the mirrorless cameras today, the Canon would be the best way to go. If you shoot any video at all, I would shy away from the Canon unless you want to shoot in 1080p and have that dual pixel autofocus, as well as shoot in 8-bit. I would go with a Canon RP if you are that person. But for everybody else, you know what, seriously consider the Fuji, especially since the X-T3 has come down in price. Listen, the X-T3 is the sleeper of the bunch in terms of the Fuji world, because the X-T3 is pretty much an X-T4. They share the same, you know, specs in terms of video and photo taking. They share the exact same sensor. It's pretty much an X-T4 without a flip screen, bigger battery, and IBIS. And to be honest with you, I don't shoot video that much, so IBIS is not important to me. I could get a battery grip if I'm really worried about battery life. And because I've lived so long without a flip screen, to be quite honest, I couldn't care that much. The X-T3 has pretty good autofocus. My Sony has good autofocus. I can live with it. So with all that being said, if I'm gonna pick a winner, congratulations, Fuji. You made a great camera. It is several years older, but it still stands with the big boys. It shoots 10-bit. It's got a great sensor. It's very flexible. I like the Fuji system, and I'm glad I picked it up. The Canon is here for now. Don't know if I'm gonna keep it, but the Canon also did a great job. And these are two great cameras. So again, it all comes down to what you want. If you like Canon colors, if you like, you know, full frame, if you want something affordable, you know what, pick up the RP. You can get this 50mm lens for $120. It's pretty cheap with the adapter. This is a really great combo. The 85 1.8 that I shot on Canon is also super affordable. That is a great combo. The 50 and 85 can get you by on the cheap. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more photography and tech-related content, and I appreciate you sticking around and being on this journey with me. You guys take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.